Okay, chapter 30, here we go. A flash of electricity lit one of the pipes on the gentleman's machine. Marcus Bishop removed his spectacles, and the brilliant blue light glinted off his golden eyeball. "What do you know of electricity?" he asked again. Even through his thick hair, Wild Boy felt a blast of heat. The machine towered in front of him like some giant industrial engine, almost filling the hall. Several gentlemen rushed about its base, reading dials, inspecting fittings, and adjusting fixtures on the mechanical helmets that had been strapped to the Tiger and Dr. Griffin's corpse. "Perhaps you observed some of Henry's performances at the fair?" Marcus asked. "You mean Professor Wollstonecraft?" "Indeed. Henry pioneered our understanding of electricity." Electricity, Wild Boy thought. The strange new force was at the heart of all of this. "Don't know nothing about it," he said. "Some clever new science." "Not new. Electricity is older than mankind. Indeed, electricity is mankind. Allow me to ask you another question. Why do you wish to use the machine?" Wild Boy looked up sharply. He saw himself reflected in Marcus's gold eye. A mess of hair and dirt in his tatty red and gold coat. "'Cause I'm a freak. 'Cause I'm being hunted by half the city. 'Cause some mad killer set me up just 'cause I look different to other people." "Is that all you see yourself as?" Marcus said. "A freak? No. I agree with Miss Everett. I do not think that is how you feel. It is perhaps how you felt once." Wild Boy remembered Clarissa's words before she left him. "So," he said, "so you have survived 4 days with half of London on your scent. Not only survived, but pieced together the clues that led you here, solved the mystery of your predicament, and asked several questions to which I believe you already knew the answer. What of it? Do you not grasp my point? A human body is flesh and bones, but a human being is his thoughts, memories, reason, and beliefs. All of these things, however, are simply electrical pulses shooting around the brain." Marcus stepped to a table that was cluttered with parts from the machine. He picked up a copper rod and touched it against a thick coil of silver wire. A blue spark zapped from the end. Who you are and how you think is all electricity," he said. "Fireworks in your brain. We call it the life principle. You might call it the mind. Others of a more spiritual disposition call it the soul." The soul. Oh, Wild Boy shuddered. These things suck it out, don't it? "Crudely put, but accurate. The wheels act as dynamos, channeling electricity into precise points in a subject's cranium. It fuses with the human electricity inside the brain. Both are extracted and then transferred into the receiver's body." Marcus zapped the metal rod again. "Thus, the whole individual is relocated to a new body. His thoughts, memories, reasons, and beliefs." "It changes you," Wild Boy thought. He could still hardly believe it was possible. But why? Why build it? "I will not pretend that such a device does not have certain military applications," Marcus replied. "But can you not imagine the good it could also achieve? The sick taken from failing bodies, cripples made to walk." He tapped the rod against his false eyeball. "The blind to see." Did Professor Wollstonecraft build it? It was his design, Marcus said, but he was unhappy with it. He made plans to rebuild the machine, a much smaller device, but even more powerful. However, Charles, Dr. Griffin, would not allow it. So Henry left our organisation, taking his plans with him. "You joined the circus," Wildboy said. The golden-eyed man smiled. He always was an old romantic. Sadly, he was also a hopeless drunk with an utter disregard for our oath of secrecy. It seems he spoke about the machine to the wrong person. "The hooded man," Wildboy said. Marcus nodded. Shortly after Henry left us, he was proved correct. There was an overload in one of the machine's capacitors, and it has not functioned correctly since. We believe that the killer is using the professor's plans to build a machine that works, but he cannot do it without the crowns. Crowns? Marcus raised the rod and prodded one of the mechanical helmets that hung on wires from the machines. "Crowns," he said. "They are not in the professor's plans." A valve on the machine burst, blasting an angry jet of steam. The other gentlemen rushed about as they struggled to contain the malfunction. Only Wildboy and Marcus remained calm, watching the commotion from the side of the hall. "I can tell you this," said Marcus. "I have no intention whatsoever of letting you use the machine. And I do not believe that you truly wish to use it either." He was right. Wildboy had known since the moment he pushed Clarissa against the wall. The look in her eyes. It was as if it had woken him from a daze. They were partners, and they had got close to unmasking the killer. Maybe they could have done it too, but he had let her down. Marcus placed the rod back on the table. "May I ask what clues you and Miss Everett have discovered so far regarding this hooded man?" Instinct urged Wildboy not to tell them anything, but he was so tired. He felt as if the clues were slipping away. He needed help. "There's one thing I can't make sense of," he said. "The killer disappeared in an alley, just vanished, and he dropped the doctor's notebook." "Dropped it?" "I thought it was because he'd already read it, only he couldn't have. We were chasing him." Another smile flashed across Marcus's tight face. "And this book led you here?" he asked. "What's so funny?" Wildboy demanded. "You see so much, Wildboy, yet I fear you have been blind to the utterly obvious. Do you really believe the killer dropped that book?" "No." "Yes, you do." Right then, a realisation shot through Wildboy, as bright as a spark from the machine. He saw now what he'd been too lost in self-pity to notice before. Not only why the killer had dropped the book, but also why his own name had been written at the crime scenes. "Of course," he said, "of course." He had been used. He'd been lured to the doctor's house to find the secret room. Then the killer had deliberately left the book in the alley, drawing his attention to the name of St Mary's Somerset Church, and there Wildboy had found the entrance to the tunnel. He hadn't been set up because he was a freak, he realised. He'd been set up because he was unique, the only person who could read the clues. He'd led the hooded man straight to the machine. Wildboy turned, his eyes wide with panic. "He's here," he said. "He's in the tunnel." Marcus simply tilted his head as if to suggest the matter was dealt with. He raised a hand and showed Wildboy the ring on his finger, the raised G. "As you know, this is a very difficult place to enter without the correct key. We are safe for now. I have sent men to..." "No," Wild Boy said. He stole the Professor's ring. He has the correct ring. He's already here. Indeed I am, said a voice. The hooded man appeared on the balcony. Clarissa stood beside him, bound by a rope that pinned her arms to her sides. A rag around her mouth smothered her cries. Beneath the killer's hood, the white mass peered down into the hall, first at Wild Boy, then at Marcus Bishop, and finally the machine. His muffled voice echoed around the stone walls. At last! The gentlemen reached into their coats for their weapons, but the hooded man raised a knife to Clarissa's neck, and they hesitated. I have not harmed her, the killer said. If you wish it to remain that way, I suggest you do exactly as I say, especially you, Wild Boy. Wild Boy was desperate to make a run for the stairs to save Clarissa, but he couldn't risk the killer using that blade. He had to find a way to save her. What? He said. What? He said. What do you want? You have proved extremely helpful to me so far, the hooded man replied, by finding the clues that led me here. Now I must ask you one final favour. With his free hand, he threw a sack over the balcony. It landed on the floor by Wild Boy's feet, removed the crowns from the machine and put them in that bag. You swear you'll let her go? Wild Boy said. You have my word, the hooded man replied. Marcus Bishop stepped forward. Do not do it, he warned. But there was no choice. Wild Boy didn't care about the machine anymore. The killer could have every piece of it as long as he set Clarissa free. He grabbed the sack and ran to the mechanical helmet that hung from the machine's pipes. He had no idea how to detach them and no time to work it out, so he simply jumped up and tore the devices from their wires. Wild Boy, Marcus insisted. He will not release Miss Everett. Wild Boy barely heard him. He stuffed the crowns in the sack and rushed back across the hall. By the time he returned, a rope hung from the balcony. Tie the sack on, the hooded man instructed. Wild Boy did. As it rose, he looked up at Clarissa. She was staring at him, flashing urgent signals with her eyes and screaming into her gag. She was trying to tell him something, but he couldn't understand. The sack slid over the balcony. Now let her go, Wild Boy demanded. But the killer didn't lower the knife. Thank you, he said, but I'm afraid you should have listened to Mr. Bishop. He was right. I have built a machine out of my own, one that works, and now that I have the crowns, it's complete. But I need a subject for its trial run, and I believe Miss Everett would make a perfect candidate. Wild Boy didn't look at the hooded man. He kept his eyes fixed on Clarissa. He saw tears slide down her cheeks and soak into the rag in her mouth. I won't let that happen, he told her. I'll save you, I swear. She looked at him, and he saw in her eyes that she believed him, but the hooded man dragged her back into the darkness. I'm afraid, Wild Boy, that it is happening, the killer said. This is ridiculous, Mark shouted. How on earth do you expect to escape? The hooded man's voice came back fainter now, moving away. You watch and see, Mr. Bishop. Watch and see. Marcus drew a pistol from inside his jacket. He loaded the gun's plate and issued orders to the other gentlemen to seal doors and guard exits. But as he spoke, another sound rang around the hall. A loud, blood-curdling shriek, like a pig being slaughtered. Somewhere a door slammed. Then another and another, as the screeching grew louder. Wild Boy turned, listening, confused. He could hear now that the noise was a laugh. No, it was several laughs, coming closer. No, he gasped. He can't have. What the devil is that? Marcus cried. The prisoners, Wild Boy cried. He's released the prisoners.